head of all the Shruti. So there is a word comes Sarva and Shruti. Sarva means all or whole, W-H-O-L-E, or all. Here all meaning all, Sarva, A-L-L. Shruti. Shruti is a word, is very often used in Vedanta. Those who study Vedanta, they know the meaning of Shruti. So anybody can tell me what is the meaning of Shruti? The literal meaning. And then indicated meaning is there.
Listening.
Yes. Shruti means that which is listened to. It is past tense. That which is listened. So that is called Shruti. So that is a literal meaning. It comes from the tradition of the Vedic knowledge that was given from guru to disciple. Then disciple becomes guru. Then he gives to his disciple. So he only gives the knowledge by making chanting of that knowledge. And the disciple hears that. Then he gives to his disciple. So it is heard. That means it was not written down. This writing came much later, very, very many years after only the writing came. So before the writing came, how you make the people remember what is being taught? The best is to make you listen and make you by heart. So they listen. The disciples go on listening to what Master is telling. And Master is repeating every day. And it is not possible to repeat the entire Vedas every day. So there are declensions happened in Vedas. Vedas itself have been bifurcated into 4 parts. Rig, Yajur, Sama, Atharva. And in each one, there are different, Brahmanim is there, then Upanishads are there. So like that, they are further divided. So whatever possible for a guru to remember, he could say to his devotees, his disciples, he can pass it on. So that small group it became. And that was very easy for the people to know. In a village, if 4 Vedas I need to be hearing. So today I must chant all the 4 Vedas. So I can call one group, I can call another group, I can call third group, I can call the 4th group. 4 groups will individually chant. So 4 Vedas. It was easy in that way to remember also. Otherwise, we will not remember. One man may not know all the Vedas. So one man may know only a particular portion of the Vedas. So likewise, the knowledge was spread by telling. So it has got the name Shruti. Now, this Shruti means you can hear anything. Not necessary, it should be about the knowledge of God. Vedas. It can be anything, You can hear the Puranas, you can hear the stories, you can hear so many things. Can all of them be classified and categorized as Shruti? No. The internal meaning, the indicated meaning is Shruti means Upanishads. That's all. So the Karmakanda also is a form of Vedas only. But that is also brought out by learning, hearing only. But then all do not come under the technical term of Shruti. So Shruti has got in Vedanta a technical term status. So that status shows us Shruti means Upanishads. So you take the Upanishad, which is the gist of the Vedas. And that all Upanishads put together, on the head, there is this crown, this radiant jewel. This is called Ratna. This Ratna is there. And that Ratna, the Guru, is personified into that Ratna. That means the radiance is coming out from him everywhere. And we as the disciples, when we approach our Guru, we get that radiance from him. We can see, we can enjoy the radiance. That's why Sarva Shruti Shiro Ratna. Is it clear? Samudbhasita Murtaye. This is one full line, mind you. The whole line is referring to one adjective, the entire line. But the second line, the third leg says, Vedantambuja Suryaya. There are three words are there. Vedanta Ambuja Suryaya. So Suryaya, we all know, is sun. Surya means sun. So he is like a sun. Now, is he like a sun or is he like something else? So that question comes. So he is giving here Vedantambuja Surya. He is not the Surya that is happening every time, every day that we see. He is a particular Surya he wants to mention. The Surya of that aspect of Surya which makes the Ambuja blossom. Ambuja means what? Ambu, these are two words are there. Ambu plus Ja. Ja means that which is born. So which is born from where? From Ambu. Ambu means water. In you know that in Guwahati, there is a big festival of Mother Kamakya, Ambuvachi it is called.
Yes. Ambuvachi, the widows of Eastern India, they have this Ambuvachi, isn't it?
No, not widows.
That is different. Okay.
No, everybody, all women will follow this.
Okay, but Ambuvachi is derived from that word Ambu. Okay.
Ambu means water.
Ambu means water.
Liquid.
Okay.
So water. So from water, what is born? A flower. So he is not mentioning the flower. So this Ambuja is the name. It is the lotus flower is indicated here. Lotus flower has got many names, you see. Kamala, you know that Kamala is there. Like that, many names are there. Padma is also lotus. So like that, many words are there. Here he has used the word Ambuja. Ambuja means it is lotus. And what is that Ambuja? This Ambuja is, what is that Ambuja? It is Vedanta. So why we are telling Shruti means only Upanishads? Why don't you include Karma Kanda also and all other things? It is because in the second line, he gives a clue. He says Vedantambuja. Vedanta, he brings the word Vedanta. So Vedanta and Shruti are synonymous words. You can use Shruti or you can say Vedanta or you can say Upanishads. Any of these terms will mean the knowledge of God. I am not hearing. Anybody speaking? I am not hearing.
Vasu?
Anybody speaking? I am not hearing.
Nobody is speaking anything.
Low sound is coming.
Unmuted.
Low sound is coming.
Is everybody?
Dermot is asking something, I think. I am not able to hear you. Why don't you unmute and say?
No, sorry, Swami. I was just
now I am able to hear you.
Yeah, I wasn't saying anything. I was just looking at the text.
I say, okay, then somebody is talking. Okay, thank you.
But I think somebody is unmuted besides me.
Okay. Thank you then. Okay, so from this second line itself, we understand that Vedanta word is being used. That means the Shruti must co-relate to that. That's how the Shruti is to be interpreted here as Upanishads. Okay. Shall we proceed or any question on that?
One question, Maharaj. When you started explaining this verse, you made one point that hyphen, that wherever there is, it is the hyphen means, but it is one word. So everywhere in all the verses, wherever there is a hyphen, it is actually a part. It is one word which is broken up into 4 parts.
Correct.
It has to be taken like that. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Here in this, they have designed like that.
Okay.
But in many books, it's not written like that. It's all one word only is written.
Okay. Thank you, Maharaj.
Okay. So let us go to the 7th verse.
Maharaj?
Yes.
Shruti, we sometimes...
Bolo, Shefali.
Shruti in Puran, they said that there is no writing in Veda. So people always goes, that kind of people they call Shrutidhar. They're the same thing as Shruti and Shrutidhar.
Shruti and Smriti, the difference is there. So
Okay.
Shruti means that which is heard.
Mm-hmm.
Smriti means that which is remembered.
Okay. So they used to come and they start telling what they saw, and that's the way going on.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the
Smriti
thing.
comes from the word smaran. But
Okay.
both are being remembered, mind you. Shruti also is remembered. But why the difference came is because the Rishi, by his experience, he tells out. He brings out his experience. In Upanishads, that is what does. So the disciple hears it, the truth.
Okay.
But in Smriti, the Puranas are considered Smritis. The Puranas are stories written by somebody and then by-hearted by somebody and told to somebody.
Okay.
So it is not a personal experience of somebody, you see. But in Upanishad, outpourings are experience of the rishis. When the rishi experiences something, his outpourings comes out.
Perhaps
So that's why it is called Smriti. Yes.
Perhaps she asked about the word Shrutidhar. Does it have any relation with Shruti?
Oh, yes. Oh, I didn't understand. I thought she was asking about Smriti. I mean, problem to me, Smriti Shumade Jigesh Kocho. Acha, okay. So Shrutidhar means one who can retain the memory, what is heard. That is called Shrutidhar. Thakur was Shrutidhar. Sri Ramakrishna was Shrutidhar. Adi Shankaracharya was Shrutidhar. All the great men you find at a very young age, they are called Shrutidhar. Dhara means what? Holding. So whatever is heard Shruti, he is able to hold it in his memory. What happens to all of us? We are all forgetful, you know. If you tell me this today, tomorrow I will forget. But they don't forget. They are able to retain the memory. So dhara means holding. So Shruti dhara. That is
my question was that you did the first time that Puran and the Veda has the two kinds of things. Puran said that some people saw everything, and that's a group of people they used to tell some other places. That's the way Puran comes.
Yes.
And that's my question. Here is Shruti means Ved.
Yes, correct. Ved.
Sure.
Or Ved, not only Ved means, Karma Kand also comes into that. No. So only Upanishads. Why only Upanishads we are telling? It is because it is indicated in the second line.
Okay.
Second line, the word Vedanta comes. So Vedanta is Upanishads knowledge. Upanishadic knowledge is called Vedanta. Yes. So let us go to the next one. Malavika, you can chant.
Chaitanyang Shashvatang Shantang Bhumatitang Niranjanang Vindunada Kalatitas Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha.
Okay. There is another version. Here what is written is, the Chaitanyam you said, Sashvatam, Shantam. Here we have written Chaitanya, Sashvataha, like that it is written. I don't know, maybe there may be different term, but the meaning is the same. So here you find in the 7th verse, Chaitanya, Sashvataha, Shanto, Vyomatito Niranjanaha, Bindu Nada Kalatitas, Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Again the same thing, Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. To that Guru I bow down. Salutations to that Guru. Now, who is this Guru? Again, another type of adjective, they have to say that. So here, a beautiful certain concepts are being brought here. One is Chaitanya. Several words are used here. The first line, Chaitanya, Sashvata, Shanta, Vyomatita, Niranjana. 5 adjectives are used. 5 words are used. If you read that. So 5 words are there. In those 5 words, and then in the second line, one single word is containing 4 words in the second line. That is Bindu Nada Kala Atita. So Bindu Nada Kala Atita. Atita, when it is added to Kala, it becomes Kalatita. So when you pronounce it, you pronounce together. So you pronounce it Kalatita. So 5 adjectives already given in the first line. In the second line, 6th adjective also has been added. So there are 6 adjectives. So what are these adjectives? Let us see. First is Chaitanya. Chaitanya is called, from the Chit word it comes consciousness. So we generally say consciousness or awareness. Self-awareness is called consciousness. So that consciousness is called Chaitanyam, from the word Chit. And that Sat Chit Anandam is the definition of Brahman. If you can put it in words, Brahman cannot be defined. But if you want to say it in words, then Sat Chit Anandam we say. That Chit, that is the absolute knowledge, it is called. Absolute knowledge is called Chaitanya. Because nothing can be hidden from Chaitanya. Because he is consciousness within you, he is consciousness within me, he is consciousness within the ant, he is consciousness everywhere pervaded. Is it not? All the 3 worlds he is pervading. So nothing can be hidden from him. So he is absolute knowledge. That is called Chaitanya. Next is Shashvatam. Shashvatam means permanent. That means continuing always. Opposite to temporary. Shashvat means permanent. Now Shanta. Shanta means absolutely peaceful. The peaceful nature of a person is called Shanta. If a woman is quite peaceful nature, she gets the name Shanta. So Shanta means absolutely peaceful. Then Vyoma Tita. There are 2 words are there. Vyoma and Atita. Atita means beyond. Vyoma. What is Vyoma? This Vyoma we already heard. There are 5 elements are there, in that Vyoma comes. So 5 elements are there, in that Vyoma comes first. So Vyoma, he is beyond ether. That is the old word used. Nowadays we use is beyond the space. So space also is beyond. And Niranjana hai. Niranjana refers to is simply pure. Niranjana, there is no type of impurity in that person, in that guru. Anjana means, Anjana means, we put that Anjana word already we have seen. It has come. That Anjana, Jnananjana Shalakaya, it came. So Jnananjana, Anjana means the painting or the collyrium. That which is put on the eyes. It is like a ink, it puts on the eyes. So that is called Anjana. So Niranjana means that type of impurity is not there. To that we say Niranjana. So this Ni word, this Nihi word is used in the opposite meaning. So Niranjana. And then the second line, Bindu Nada Kalatita. It's actually one word. Bindu Nada Kala is one word. Though there are separate 3 words, but they are brought together in one place, so that Atita can refer to all the 3 individually also. So this Kalatita, beyond Kala, that means, is he not beyond Bindu? Yes, he is beyond Bindu also. Then he is beyond Nada also. So Bindu, Nada, Kala, individually to say Atita every time, you can combine these 3 words, and put the Atita in the last. That means the Atita is acceptable or applicable to all the three words. So is Bindu Atita, Nada Atita, Kala Atita. So all the three he is beyond. So that's how it comes there. Now if you see the meanings, it's a very beautiful meaning. This, let us take from Niranjana. Niranjana means completely pure, no impurity. So purity and impurity can happen to my body, it can happen to my mind, it can happen to my words, and it can happen to many things. Anything that is very gross, this impurity can come and attach. By telling it is Niranjana, what is being indicated here is to us that it is not physical at all. It is absolutely very subtle. Very subtle. Subtler than the mind. That's why that Niranjana word has been used. That means absolute purity. And next word, you see, Vyoma Tito. Vyoma is one element in the 5 primordial elements. So we have got space, that is Vyoma, that is Akasha. From Akasha, what comes? Vayu. Vayu means wind. So the air is there from Akasha. So Akashad Vayuhu, Vayor Agnihi, Agner Apaha, Apaf Prithivi. So how the Prithivi, how this earth came? For that the Vedas say that first Akasha appeared. From Akasha, yes. From Akasha, then Vayu, that is wind. Vayor Agnihi, that is fire. Agner Apaha, that is water. Then Apav Prithivi, then the earth. So all these 5 elements are included. So when you say Vyoma Tito, that means, is it beyond only space? So to indicate that is beyond the 5 original elements, the primal elements, beyond all the 5, he is giving only one word there to indicate that is beyond all the 5 elements. Because the Chaitanya has to be beyond all these 5 elements. If it is produced by 5 elements, then the Chaitanya becomes restricted. So it cannot become pervasive. It cannot be Vyaptam. So it has to be pervasive, means it has to be beyond all these 5 elements. Anything that is produced by compound, Swami Vivekananda says in Jnana Yoga, that must go for destruction. It must disintegrate. Anything that is combined must disintegrate. So if Chaitanya is a product of these 5 elements, then it will disintegrate. But Chaitanya cannot disintegrate, it cannot be destroyed, because it is Shashvatam. It is always present. That is the only thing that remains ever. Because it is beyond time also. Because it is beyond the 5 elements, then it goes beyond the time also. How it goes beyond the time, we shall see later. Now, Shashvatam. And because the consciousness is ever present, and it is absolutely pure, and it is beyond the 5 elements, there is no disturbance anywhere in the consciousness. In the Chaitanyam, there is no disturbance. That means it is absolutely at peace. Peace goes away when you get disturbed, is it not? If the disturbance goes away, you get peace. Because he has already told us. So these things are not there anymore. It is beyond. So naturally, it is always peaceful. So Shanto. So you can see whoever has realized God, and when you go and meet that person, you get a plenty of peace in your mind. And you come back home with so much of peace. I used to go and meet Sringeri Shankaracharya in Chennai when I was a young boy. So with the parents, I used to go. And the whole family sometimes used to go to meet him. And we all go there and make pranam to him and sit in his presence for about 1 or 2 hours. And then you come back. When you come back, even at that young age, I could feel that peace has descended on me like that. I would feel absolutely so quiet and the mind is not at all disturbed. You see, mind, when the thoughts come up in the mind and jump about, then only the disturbance we feel. So when the mind's no thoughts are coming up, all are quietened down, then everything is peaceful. So likewise, this Chaitanya itself, its nature is peacefulness. That's why if it is not peaceful, if it is ashanta, then what would have happened, you see? Whoever has realized God will be restless. But you don't see anywhere. A person who has realized God is restless. He is always at peace. That means the God's nature itself is peaceful. That's why it says, after telling its consciousness, Chaitanya, immediately he uses the word, second word is that Sashvatam. And this consciousness, this highest intelligence is not temporary. It is always remaining. And therefore, it is Shashvatam. It is always there. And therefore, it is Shanta. It is peaceful. How it is peaceful? Then he explains that Vyoma Tito Niranjana. It is always pure. When impurity comes, disturbance happens. If there is no impurity, you have absolute peacefulness is there. Now, these are the 5 adjectives he gives in the first line. Now, in the second line you come to, that is a very tough line. Why I'm telling you tough? It says, Bindu Nada Kalatita. So, the consciousness, the Chaitanya, is beyond Bindu Nada Kala. 3 items. Atita means beyond. So, Bindu Nada Kala, what are they? Now, that is a very tough question because it is a new concept that is being introduced. This Guru Stotram is read by not only devotees, those who follow the Bhakti Marga or the path of Bhakti. It is being recited by the people who follow the path of knowledge also. It is being recited by the people who are Karma Yogis. And it is being recited by the people who are all yogis also. So a particular concept is being brought here, this Bindu Nada Kala. How it is relevant, you can see. I'm just going very fast on that subject, in a very brief way, but because this requires minimum 2 hours of talk. But I will tell you in a very simple way, I will tell you. When you hear a 1-hour lecture and write down all the lines, so you will find the whole thing from page 1 to page 35 is 1 line. Will you be able to understand anything? No. So what you have to do, such a long passage, you have to make it paragraphs. Is it not? When you make paragraphs, then it will be little easy to read first. Understanding comes later. To read also, in 1 page, 1 sentence, if it is there, you will not be able to read. There are some writers, they can write long sentences. 5 sentences put together in 1 sentence, complicated sentence. Where he starts and where he ends, we don't know. Such type of long sentences are there. In Bengali, it is the art of writing Bengali. Sharat Maharaj used to write like that Bengali. His way of writing Bengali is no more used. If you read Sri Ramakrishna Leela Prasango, you will get that. And the person who translated into English, Swami Jagadananda, he also used the same pattern. So when you read the English version, it's also long sentences. When you read one sentence, where it started, where it has ended, you don't know. Such a long sentence. So you cannot understand. So you make it paragraph. Paragraph also, you make sentences. Say 10 sentences put together in one paragraph. Now I am coming to sentences. What sentences are made of? Sentences are made of words. Is it not? In one sentence, I may use 4 words. In another sentence, I may use 6 words. Or I may use single word for one sentence. So words constitute in the sentences. Now these words, can they be also divided further? Yes, because each word, if you take, consists of certain alphabets. Is it not? Each letter, each alphabet, only putting the each alphabet, you can make a word. You can make one alphabet as one word. Is it not? 2 alphabets in one word, like O, OH, one word. Or 3 letters in one word, God, G-O-D. So likewise, you can even go up to the biggest 16-letter word also you can make it. So any word, it can be from 1 letter to any number of words. Now, these words they are called alphabets. These alphabets in Sanskrit, how many? Total 50. There are 50 alphabets are there. In these 50 alphabets, they have got a separate name is there. They are called Varna. So in Bengali, when you learn Bengali, so they teach, Varna Parichay. Varna Parichay means, I think Chovidi may remember Varna Parichay book. Yes, Varna Parichay. Varna means alphabets. In the olden days, they used to teach like that. Varna Parichay. So that Varna means Varna. Varna means alphabets. So these 50 alphabets are nothing but sound in writing. So when you say A, B, C, D, or you say A, Pa, Kha, Bha, Da, whatever word, alphabets you pronounce, instinctively, inherently, it has got no meaning. If you say Ka, does it have any meaning? Unless you find out from the literature what does that Ka means, then you can explain. Say Akasha. Akasha is the word that is space. And one Bengali word is used, Kha, in Sanskrit also. So if you say Kha, it is Akash. So one letter also can give you meaning. But individually, if you see all the alphabets, if you say Kha, Kha, Ga, Ga, Nga, Cha, 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 Nya, like that if you say, it has got no meaning. But when you give meaning to that word, by joining the letters. So the sound is reproduced in writing form. For that only you require alphabets. Suppose I am not writing at all. Do I require alphabets? I don't require alphabets. Sound is enough. Only by sound, one can communicate one's ideas to another. How do you communicate? Only by sound. Recently, I saw a video in a crowded place in Calcutta. One cow was crying and trying to dash with the people. All people got surprised and they were running helter-skelter. One fellow stood there and is telling, you see, the cow is crying and it is attacking all the humans. That means something, it is suffering. Let us find out what it is suffering. And strangely, where the jeep was there, underneath the calf is there. And they put the jeep a little high status, 10, 15 people come, and then they lifted the jeep and took the calf out. The cow became absolutely silent. So it conveyed an idea that it is in distress. So for conveying an idea to another person, we don't require any words. We don't require any alphabets. Only for writing you require alphabets, mind you. So the rishis say how the words came out is from the sound it came. So a sound is enough. Cows have got a particular sound, crows have got particular sound, other birds have got a particular sound, other animals have got particular sound. So you find each being have got their own sounds. If you see in tribal places, I was in Arunachal Pradesh for many years. There I have seen, he's asking him to go up the mountain. Only one sound he gives, that person understands that he has to go up the mountain. So from the sound he could communicate. No word was there. And no alphabets, because they do not have any written alphabets. So they use English alphabets only nowadays. To write letters, etc., they use English alphabets. But then the sound cannot be produced in English alphabets entirely. Why? English alphabets are only 26. There are so many sounds you cannot produce in English alphabets. In African languages, you can't produce in English alphabets. When they speak, they add so many other sounds which cannot be put in English alphabet. So, and Sanskrit has got 50. Where is 26? Where is 50? Almost a double. Even with the double, it lacks certain sounds. For instance, in Tamil language, there are 2 sounds are there, for which alphabets are there, which are lacking in Sanskrit. Sanskrit doesn't have. So you find that these sounds itself can communicate an idea without any big going into these words. Now this sound you trace the sound from where it is coming. That sound comes, the Vedas say, from the vibration of the Brahman. The conscious Chaitanyam is all alone. That Brahman, which is Chaitanya, is all alone. Only one is there. There is nothing else other than Brahman. So Vedanta says, when the Brahman was all alone, it has in it a power. That power in those who do mother worship, they call it Shakti. And according to your worshipful pattern, you can call it anything, but it is power. And that Shakti is inherent in Brahman. So when Brahman does not move around, does not create, does not dissolve, does not maintain, he is like a sleeping. He is completely in his own state of existence where nothing else is done. So the very first time the Brahman thinks that I am alone, let me become many. Eko aham bahusyama. So in Taittiriya Upanishad it comes. So he says, Eko aham, I am alone. Bahusyama, let me become many. And when Brahman thinks that, then the Shakti, there is a vibration in the Shakti. That is called explosion. That explosion is called Sphota. S-P-H-O-T-A. In English we write Sphota. Sphota is one important item in understanding the tantric and yogic ideas. So it may not be necessary entirely in Vedanta, but in other systems of philosophies, the Sphota idea comes. Particularly the Vaisheshika, etc., in their philosophies, the Sphota is a must. So when the Sphota means that explosion, at the time of explosion, there is a sound. And that sound is called Nada. So from that Nada is nothing but Saguna Brahman. So Saguna Brahman, we understand the Brahman which has got certain characteristics, certain traits, certain qualities. So it's called Saguna Brahman. So that Saguna Brahman's power comes out in the form of Nada, the sound wave. So the first sound wave that came from the Saguna Brahman, they both are indistinguishable. And what is that sounded like to us now? If you want to compare it, and if you want to put it in letter, in alphabets, then it should be A, U, Ma, half. And that is called Om. So the very first sound came out from the Saguna Brahman was Om. Om is a sound, mind you. Don't confuse it with the alphabet. Never think of alphabet now here. Alphabet is the last stage. But the Om sound was there. And that sound is discernible even till today. Even in NASA has found out, some video was circulated. You know, in sun also, there is a sound inside the sound. Sound is everywhere, actually. In everything, even if you close your ears, you'll get a sound. You see, you close your ears, you get a sound. So sound is everywhere. In each object, there is a sound. But the original sound that came out from the Saguna Brahman, which is equivalent to Saguna Brahman, that's why there are sects are there in Hinduism who follow only the sound, and they do Nadopasana. Nada Upasana. They do Nada Upasana. They don't have any God in form. They don't believe in God with form. They believe God with sound. So music comes here very much. Swamiji says music can be the highest form of sadhana. I find two French ladies are here, both are musicians. And also there are many other people, also musicians are there. So this music itself can be a sadhana. So you don't need any personal God or God's name or anything. The music, I'm telling the composition of the raga, the tune, I'm telling, not the words of the song. Mind you, make music means I'm not meaning the songs. I'm meaning the tune, the raga composition. You know, the raga itself can take you to reach the highest level of Saguna Brahman. So nada comes there. Now this nada has come out, we say. How did it come out? So when the sphota happened, when the explosion happened, then the whole thing started from one single simple point. A point. Point, say if you put tilak here, it's like a point. Or you put a full stop by your pen. That is a point. We call it point. Is it not? That point is what? That point is nothing but if you magnify a smallest point in a magnification class and you see that point is nothing but a circle. All points are circles, mind you. They are all circles. Any point you look, put it, even target point you see in the board, etc. they are all circle. Nobody puts a square or a triangle or etc. Because any point, even a water, if I pour this cup, you know, the water comes here and it goes here and it becomes a drop here. That drop will automatically become a globe. So that is the nature of this universe. So everything is round. So this circle it becomes. That circle expands. And that expansion is called Brahman. So that we say it is expanding, expanding, expanding. Even now the universe is expanding, we say. So it all came from that point, that dot, which is called Bindu. Bindu means dot. So from that Bindu, the nada started developing itself into many. So how did he develop? He developed into 50 sounds. That means one whole sound of Om developed itself into 50 types of sounds, like ka, ga, ga, ba, ba, etc. Alphabets. These 50 sounds are called kala. Kala means part. Part. 10 kalas, 15 kalas, 25 kalas. Like that we use, in colloquial language, we use the term kala. Kala means part. So that one nada, which came out from the bindu, became many kalas. And those many kalas that we see, that has become the 50 words, 50 letters, and then language, and then words, then sentences, paragraphs, and then big passages. So if you go backwards, that's why I took you from the backward, from the one full page lecture, so I went to backward. So it ends in a point. That point is called bindu. So this bindu is very important in tantric yogic practices, where, you know, that in Adi Shankaras, you'll find Sri Yantra. You'll find in the center, there is a bindu is there. So any type of yantra, if you worship, you will know that there is a bindu, starts from the bindu, and then it expands. So this bindu is very important. But then these are all after the Saguna Brahman started expanding itself to the world. But here what they want to mean is, he is beyond this nada and bindu and kala. That is the point that we have to remember. He doesn't come within this power structure of this nada, bindu, kala. He is beyond also. So that, to indicate that he is completely beyond all these things that be around us, it is said, nada, bindu, kalatita. To that Guru, I bow down. But if you want to read it in a more specific way, so you can get literature are there. There are Nada Upasana, there are certain scriptures are there for them. There are tantras are there. Sarada Tilak is one of the famous tantra book. If you get any time, Woodruff has translated into English. Woodruff was a great tantric practitioner, you know. So he has translated in English. You can read that. Sarada Tilak. That book gives lots and lots of information about how this nada came, and from nada how the bindu was used to make a kalas, etc. Very long time. So that's why God is called Nada Bindu Kalatita Namo Nama, Veda Mantra Swarupa Namo Nama. All these mantras, you know, Vedic mantras, they are not to be considered as mere words. They are all the sound portion of the Saguna Brahman. That's why they become mantras. So mantra means what? The powerful mantra, how it becomes? Because it is the sound of Brahman. There are so many, the subject is very vast. So many things we can bring it into under that. Okay. Any questions before I close? Yes.
Well, perhaps a grammar-related question that you said that Chaitanya Shashwata Shantam, it can be read without Unushar. And in Sanskrit, if it is this Chaitanya Shashwatam Shantam, it is a Ditya Vibhakti, right? As opposed to the first one, like Nara.
Yes, correct.
And then the confusion is when we sing the song that Bimala Paramahangsam Ramakrishnam Namamaha. So there we use Ramakrishnam, whereas here we say Sri Gurave Nama, that is the fourth vibhakti. Or yes, when we say Om Namo Sri Ramakrishnaya Namo Bhagavate, those are fourth vibhaktis. Yes. So you know, all those 1, 2, 4, everything is correct. Like, how do we know when we apply which one?
Okay. So there is a grammar rule. Vidyasagar's book says that Nama word should be used always in fourth pratyaya. Namaha, that word. Namami, etc. you can use second vibhakti. But fourth vibhakti should be always for Namaha. There is a sutra is there. I forget the sutra now, but it is there in Vidyasagar's Sanskrit book. Sanskrita Kaumudini, what is that name?
Vyakaran Kaumudi.
Vyakaran Kaumudi, correct. Vyakaran Kaumudi. In that book, it is written there.
Yeah.
Namaha word should be as an exception to the rule, he says. Generally, the second one, tam namami, like that you say that. But then when you use the word namaha instead of namami, nama means I am making pranam. Namaha means only prostrations or salutations. So the namaha word, whenever you use, you should use fourth vibhakti. That exception is there.
মহারাজ আমরা কোন বই ফলো করব আপনি যে বলছেন আমি তো I got this book but okay. I don't know it's okay or not. This has a Hindi and Hindi is for me is difficult.
Okay. We in our center we use this sheet.
Okay.
So we use this sheet so that I am taking up. But you can use any book for this because that mantra, if you know, that sloka, you know, that's enough. You can go through it. In some, the order is not kept in all the books the same. We are starting with Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu. Some books start with Akhanda Mandalakaram. And Guru Brahma comes as the 7th verse. So the order may be here and there like that. But whenever that verse is taken, you follow that verse. That's all. So the number may be different. Okay. But if you want, I can send you a photocopy of this. Juma, you can tell Prithvish to make a photocopy and then send it in this.
Okay.
Yes, Maharaj, I'll do.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, then. Thank you.
Okay.
Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat. Sri Rama Krishna Arpanamastu.
Thank you, Swamiji.
Thank you.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Durga to everyone. God bless everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, Swami.